Let us enter into worship with the words of Molly Hausch Gordon.
I thought it was funny.
We gather together this morning, tenderly, like drops of dew on a leaf of grass, hopefully, like gathered raindrops in a cloud, gleefully, like water rushing in a stream towards the sea, deeply, like groundwater pulled up from a well. We gather from every direction for another year of growth and depth, another year of companionship and hope, another year of learning to love this world. We gather like the water that joins us across all of creation, the water that connects us within and without, merging and flowing across the entire world. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit to join our voices in our opening hymn, number 360 in the gray hymnal, Here We Have Gathered.
Oh,
lights our chalice with words by Katie Savani Gelfand. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion. We reunite in this sanctuary to share the flow of our hearts with one another. We gather together in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through storms of grief, to guide one another through rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. Together we honor the spirit of water, its many forms, and its life-giving essence.
It is now time for our story for all ages. I invite you to gather round as we hear a special story called A Vessel of Compassion, a water communion story by Katie Savani Gelfand. Once upon a time, in a time that is both this time and no time, at the turning of the 9th month of the year, 4 women journeyed from 4 different directions to share a moment of sacredness together. Each carried a pitcher of water from her home, embedded with the stories and emotions of her life and community. They congregated around an empty vessel, united in the desire to listen to the stories and hearts of one another. The youngest woman came from the east with the spirit of air. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about the excitement of children being born, the music of laughter that fragranced the neighborhoods, and the bliss of young people falling in love. As she shared the story of her heart, she laughed, and drops of liquid for joy burst from her mouth and landed inside the vessel. The 4 women paused to honor the stories from the east and the spirit of the woman who shared them. The mother came from the south with the spirit of fire. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about adapting to the ever-changing world of motherhood, the challenges of navigating family life, and the difficulties her community faced with transition in leadership. As she shared the story of her heart, a drop of sweat formed on her brow and landed inside the vessel. The 4 women paused to honor the stories from the south and the spirit of the woman who shared them. From the west, with the spirit of water, came the sovereign woman. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about friends and loved ones who had died, the grief of those who missed them, and the deep pain she carried for the wounds humans have inflicted on each other and our world. As she shared the story of her heart, a tear of sadness fell from her eye and landed inside the vessel. The 4 women paused to honor the stories from the west and the spirit of the woman who shared them. From the north came the elder woman with the spirit of earth. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories of her home, about the peace she found in solitude, the comfort she found in witnessing the changing of the seasons and the phases of the moon, and the renewal she felt when sharing her wisdom with those who would listen. As she shared the story of her heart, A tear of joy fell from her eye and landed inside the vessel. The four women paused to honor the stories of the North and the spirit of the woman who shared them. Now between the four women was a vessel filled with the waters of joy and happiness, change and transition, grief and loss, and rest and renewal. Mingled together in harmony and blessed by the women through their reverence and love for each other, the empty vessel of water was now a full vessel of compassion. Each woman took out a small container and filled it with water to bring back to her home to share the spirit of understanding and compassion with her own community. Thanks for listening. Now join in our musical response. The more we get together, the words are printed in your order of service. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, number 134 in the gray hymnal, Our World is One World. In the silence that follows the spoken prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys or concerns you hold in your hearts this morning. Spirit of love and life, source of all that is, may we know the delight of story, the compassion that is fostered when we give freely of our hearts, minds, and souls, and that is created when we receive these gifts from others. May you hear the tender words of heartache we offer you, beloved infinite spirits, and may you hear our tender words of wonder and awe. May our beloved companions hear these words of joy and lament spoken from our lips as well, for together we share from our hearts those tender pieces we hold within, and we share our delight in mystery and wonder. So, in this day, and every day, may blessed words of love and compassion leave our lips, healing each broken soul, embracing each joyous being. And may the sacred, tender, compassionate words of others serve to comfort us. Spirit of love, may our vulnerability connect us in sacred ways to all of that which is holy. Sacred Spirit, hear our laments. Loving Spirit, hear our joys. That we hold ourselves in a loving embrace just as we hold one another, wrapped in compassion, in love, in beauty. With this in our hearts, Spirit of life, may you hold us all. May it be so, and amen. I light a candle for the joys and concerns of those beloveds joining us virtually. And I light a candle for all else that we hold in our hearts and our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help, as am I. Please reach out with any needs.
Our offering words this morning are by our own David Fu. In just a few minutes, as a ritual of gathering and of deepening community, we will merge our waters together and share our respective stories. And so also now, as a ritual of gathering and of deepening community, and so that we may support our church and its wider concerns, let us merge our treasures together. For those of you watching the service online, you may contribute to a virtual offering plate using the donate button on our website or by mailing a check to the church office. I invite the ushers forward to receive the offering. I now invite Kathleen Rasmus to introduce this month's second Sunday special collection.
Good morning. So today's Second Sunday collection is brought to you by the Channing Outreach Team. It will help defray the cost of Channing's participation in the Howard County Pride Festival, which is coming up on Sunday, October 13th. It'll be in Symphony Woods over near Meriwether. Many of you will remember that we participated in this last year, and we really showed up well. We had lots of volunteers come out in their Channing swag and represent. Participating in community events like this one is part of how we fulfill our mission to invite seekers into spiritual community. One of the jobs of the outreach team is to bring opportunities like this to the church. Getting out there, meeting people, and making ourselves known gives us the opportunity to make the invitation. Every one of us who is a member or friend of Channing was invited at some point, whether through an advertisement, a Google search, a friend, a family member, or an event. This is how outreach activities tie directly to the mission of our church. There are so many seekers out there who are looking for what we offer, but they need to know that we're here. When we show up at events like this, we are making ourselves known. And by the way, speaking of volunteers, we're also looking for people to help staff the Channing table at the event. The event will run from 12 to 4 on Sunday, October 13th, and we're looking for volunteers for 2-hour shifts from setup through cleanup. Ken Grimm will be happy to write your name in pen on the schedule. Please see him if you'd like to volunteer. And also, in the next week or so, we'll be circulating a sign-up genius for volunteers as well. Thank you so much for your generosity toward this event and your support for the mission of this church. We look forward to seeing you out there on October 13th. Would the ushers come forward again? I forgot, if you're going to write a check, can you put in the memo Howard County card? For all that you give and all that you do for our church community and its wider concerns, we give thanks. Hear the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. Water flows from high in the mountains. Water runs deep in the earth. Miraculously, water comes to us and sustains all life. Water and sun green these plants. When the rain of compassion falls, even a desert becomes an immense green ocean. At Blackwater Pond by Mary Oliver. At Blackwater Pond, the tossed waters have settled after a night of rain. I dip my cupped hands. I drink a long time. It tastes like stone, leaves, fire. It falls cold into my body, waking the bones. I hear them deep inside me, whispering, "Oh, what is that beautiful thing that just happened?" I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn 209, "O Come, You Longing, Thirsty Souls."
Oh,
The women, arriving from either the east or the south, the west or the north, join to share a moment of sacredness, offers our story for all ages. The four women gathered in curiosity and wonder, inquisitiveness and awe, for they gathered to share each of them water emblematic of what they held deep in their hearts, adding their symbolic joys and woes into one shared vessel. A vessel holding, respectively, joy and happiness, change and transition, grief and loss and rest and renewal. Each of these mingling in harmony, yes, blessed by these four women. Their stories mixed and merged, and in this sacred space of sharing and vulnerability, and the deep love they held for one another, they created a vessel of compassion. Compassion that, I imagine, spread widely beyond this small gathering, as the women offered empathy for the plights and journeys and deeply held secrets and mysteries of others, knowing that others also carried these delights and these heartaches buried deep within. By sharing these narratives, these stories, by sharing what was held deeply in their hearts, souls, and minds, by sacred vulnerability, they were overcome with not just compassion, but with reverence and love for one another. May we do the same. Today, we celebrate water communion, sharing story, yes, and honoring the sacred arts of invitation, inviting one another into the deepest crevices of our beings through the narratives we offer. I invite you to pause and ingest these words and reflections. We join together in community to both share and accept one another's stories, a reciprocal act of giving and receiving that strengthens our bonds while bringing wisdom and compassion to the soul. And this shared and holy space, on this special day of celebration, let us invite one another into a sacred community, to a web of stories, to a faith of love, to a gathering of open hearts, minds, and souls. Together, we strengthen the bonds we already have, and in sacred and intimate ways, we invite newcomers into these consecrated walls and to the deepest places of our hearts. Again, what I hold deeply sacred in this hallowed day is the invitation to reciprocity. May you impress upon me your insights and stories, and may I, in return, offer gratitude, reverence, wonder, and compassion. I lift this up not simply to embody water communion, but as a model for bringing the sacred art and spiritual practice of storytelling into each of our days, sharing and receiving tales and narratives in sacred and holy ways. May we at once offer vulnerability and all of that which we hold deep within as a treasured gift, and receive gratitude and love and reverence in return. In the newly articulated values of our Unitarian Universalist faith, love is at the center. As a faith, we hold love at the center. Love is storytelling. Love is the compassion it fosters. Love is an invitation to healing through shared vulnerability. It is a sense of selflessness as we release our deeply held narratives to the world. And likewise, it is a genuine eagerness to hear what kindred souls have to say. What is more beautiful than shared love? What seeds does shared love nurture? Compassion, reverence, awe, gratitude, companionship. My sister and I do just this, sharing love. We live far apart, Annie in Maine and I in Maryland. Annie previously lived in Costa Rica and Germany and Nova Scotia, a blessed woman who spreads her wings and soars. And so, we have that physical distance that separates us. And yet we have bonds of the Spirit that allows her to infiltrate my heart no matter where we are. For it is that art of storytelling and that craft of reciprocal invitation that binds us together in a way blood alone never could. It is those moments together, whether seated around a small wooden table in my mother's backyard, sipping coffee in Annie's apartment in Maine, or sitting in a field of wildflowers. It is those moments when our hearts open and pour out, gush out really, that which we hold tenderly within. It is then when our souls and our spirits receive the story of another and offer compassion and awe and gratitude in return, inviting one another into a space of joy and happiness, change and transition, grief and loss, rest and renewal. Who do you love? Who broke your heart? What pain do you hold within? We share tears, we share laughter, we invite the vulnerability and the healing that this evokes as we offer true, deep, unconditional, sisterly love. Reciprocity and love, this is the center. Vulnerability, compassion, this binds us intimately together by sharing all of that which we hold within, giving and receiving and becoming kinder and wiser for it. I share my own private and intimate stories with Annie, and in response, she offers me hers. And what often forms the deepest bonds is not reiterating that, which is seemingly perfect or ideal, although sharing of joy and delight and wonder and awe is key to any relationship. What stands out as creating and fostering deep and powerful bonds is when we guide one another through that which is fundamentally imperfect, making, as they say, lemons into lemonade. As such, I want to share with you a wisdom tale of ancient India. The tale begins with the introduction of a humble water bearer carrying 2 heavy pots from stream to home each day, holding the water in these pots carried across her neck. One of these pots was seemingly whole and perfect. The other suffered a substantial crack, stretching from bottom to top. For 2 years, the water bearer traversed the same path from creek to home, and each time the broken pot arrived at the destination only half full. The pot was ashamed of this, thinking he was a bitter failure. One day, the pot humbly and sorrowfully apologized to the water bearer for wasting so much precious water. Listening to this lament, the water bearer's heart filled with compassion. She offered the pot this: "As we return, notice the flowers planted along this path." So, on their journey home, the pot saw beautiful blossoms, fostering wonder and awe as they created an alluring array of colors and scents. Did you notice, offered the water bearer, that these flowers line only one side of the path? I knew your flaw, so I planted seeds along the path. You have watered each of these seeds every day. Look at the beauty you have created. Tulips and roses and peonies and lavender. What is the moral of this story? Each of us has our own unique flaws. We are all cracked pots. The pot shared its story with the water bearer and the water bearer reciprocated with love. Love at the center. In offering a genuine invitation to intimate storytelling, one must be ready to receive flaws and vulnerabilities, especially through those stories those stories where we share those precious pieces of ourselves that we believe are broken, like the pot. In this act of reciprocity, one shares vulnerable stories and receives compassion and love and kindness in return. Yes, I am flawed, offered the pot. And yes, I am beautiful. We are receptive when we hear that the crack is what makes us whole, that the crack makes the world a better place. Again, offering vulnerability and receiving an affirmation of beauty in return, just as did that pot received from the water bearer. This offers a sacred invitation to change the narrative one tells oneself, arriving in sorrow and leaving cloaked in affirmation. There is a second blessing we can derive from this story. Acknowledging one's own cracks as a way of inviting the imperfections of others. May we offer one another our deepest insecurities. I am not perfect, and neither are you. I am insecure. I am anxious. I am a people pleaser, and this makes me compassionate and strong as it can with you. May we articulate, this is part of my story. And in this moment, I invite you to tell me yours in return, in a place where no judgment resides. That is but one example of the common vessel we share, mixing our unique tales into a concoction of joy and hardship, of delight and sorrow, of pain and healing, of heartbreak and love, a brew of stories that produces compassion for ourselves and for the world. So let us join together in this love and in this compassion as we tend to the flowers created by that which we held imperfect. May we return to the metaphor of the day, water. Those of us traveling from the east, south, west, or north to gather here in this sacred community, to pour into a common vessel the water holding the stories of our hearts, minds, and souls. Creating together, again, a vessel of compassion. And so, it is this water we celebrate today. Water flows from the high mountains, wrote Thich Nhat Hanh. Water runs deep in the earth. Miraculously, water comes to us and sustains all life. To Hanh, the water in his narrative is that of the life-giving miracle of compassion, sustaining all life, which we hold as well, offered through the power of story. It is a miracle, yes, this water and the stories we share. And it is stories, and as Hanh would offer, compassion, that sustain relationships, communities, and even nations as we practice the sacred arts of invitation, welcoming others to share with us what is held most intimately within. When we learn, we love, we change. What wealth of insights and strength do we garner when we invite others to share their stories with us? Think of the stories one hears of a tragic, deadly car crash that teaches us to cherish those we love. Think of stories of heroism that elicit an awe of the human spirit. Tales of children planting trees, giving us hope for the future of this ailing planet. Narratives of overcoming illness of the body or the mind that produce strength in us to do the same. It is the experience of others and that humble act of storytelling that provide us with love, awe, hope, and perseverance. It is this water, both metaphorically and literally, that sustains all life. And it is this water, our shared narratives that Mary Oliver drank in her poem, tasting of stones, leaves, and fire. Tasting of compassion and love and strength and vulnerability and wisdom and generosity. Water drunk, ingested, making her bones as they whispered, "Oh, what is that beautiful thing that just happened? What is that beautiful thing?" It is a spiritual practice of storytelling, and this is what I leave you with, the spiritual practice of storytelling. May we reflect, what stories of mine do I share to relinquish my own pain, and what stories do I offer to impart my wisdom, insights, and tales of perseverance to others? For both are needed, both are sacred. What can we receive from others to heal the wounds that each life inevitably offers us, and what can we generously offer from our own wealth of insights and experiences? For if storytelling is to be life-giving, it is to be reciprocal. Let me bless you with the deepest pieces of my heart, and may I invite you to share your spirit with me in return. May you receive my vulnerability, and may you offer yours in return. It is an invitation to heal one another through story, and likewise an opportunity to highlight joys and wonder and awe, for life is joyous just as it hurts. These practices form bonds that not even the span of the Atlantic Ocean can separate. I love you, my dear sister. When you reach out, a vulnerable, cracked pot, may I return with a balm to tend to the wound as I highlight the beauty your imperfection inevitably produced. We are beautiful, kindred souls, each and every one of us, held together in this space by shared faith, love, friendship, compassion, and meaning-making. Stories come to us, and stories sustain all of life, as does a bubbling creek, a flowing stream. So may we give, may we receive, may we share our vessel of compassion with one another and with the world. May it be so, and amen. In this moment, I invite us into a sacred ritual. May we create our own vessel of compassion, bringing forth our water imbued with hope, love, joy, adventure, and faith. This is a holy moment, my friends, as our hearts and souls mix and mingle and become one blessed whole. In just a moment, I will invite each of you forward as we join together in a sacred act. You will have an opportunity to pour a bit of your water into a shared vessel and share the story from whence it came. Water from an ocean, a clearing in the woods, or the tap in your kitchen. You may share your tale with the congregation at this microphone, share your story with me alone, or simply release your water into our bowl as we hold one another in love, light, and prayer. If you do not have water with you today, we have a pitcher up front containing water from this sacred building. You are invited to pour this water into our communal vessel and imbue it with the meaning we find within these walls. To those joining us on Zoom as well, we cannot wait to hear your stories. Once we have completed our in-person ritual, you have a chance to share your tales with all of us. Just a quick note, if you would like not to share, I invite you to turn off your camera. And if you would like to share, raise your hand, and Kathy will unmute you in just a few moments. Okay. To those gathered in the sanctuary, please come forward.
share some water that I gathered when I visited my mother in Connecticut and my aunt and cousins.
This is water from the stream that flows through the woods behind my house and which has provided an occasional metaphor for life in my philosophical ruminations as I walk along the winding stream with my dog almost every day.
This is water from our little landscape pond in our backyard, which some of you have seen. We have a long history with this pond now, from when we dug it manually, including almost 4 tons of rock to border it. And it works. So this is, it brings us the peace of the sound of running water every day. We can hear it in our bedroom, and we can hear it when we go outside on the patio from the kitchen. So we love what this water brings to our life.
And the stuff that floats on top of the beautiful lily pads that we have there too.
So I grew up going to the Jersey Shore with my family. Every summer we did that for decades. And now the tradition has shifted, and I now go with Eric to his family every summer. We just got back a couple weeks ago. And so I brought water from this new beach that I go to, this new chapter of life with my husband. So thank you.
This water is from our little Cascade Pond in the terrace of Charlestown. And, as I was dipping it out, it occurred to me that there's molecules in this water that have circulated around the earth since the beginning of time. And circulated through all of you and all of me. So it's this water that's in partnership with all that is. Home.
That water is from New York City, where I went to celebrate the Sunday market.
This water is from my backyard pond that my husband dug by hand 30 years ago and did all the rocks and everything. And I've been going through a lot of changes, and I'm tearing out all the gardens that he put in for me. And the landscape guy told me I could keep my pond. And I was really happy to hear that.
This is water from my daughter's house, signifying good times with grandkids.
So I've been going to the ocean since I was a kid, and it's really nice to remember being a kid on up all through all these years, and we've seen friends through all the years there. Didn't bring anything in. I wanted to speak about water in the sense of tears. I visited last week Hiroshima on a trip to Japan, and in remembrance of 1945 and the bomb that destroyed 150,000 lives in moments, and all the tears that were shed by the victims and their survivors, and people who have visited Hiroshima over the years.
I am going to pour some water to symbolize the water in our dog's water dish. Our dog Cody passed a few weeks ago. So.
This is water from the St. Lawrence River on the Canadian border, where my wife grew up.
And this is water from our CPAP machine. And it's a wonderful reminder to me of how lucky we are to live in an age when we have such wonderful medical help.
This is water from eastern Montana, where our family got together at the end of my daughter's AmeriCorps year, and she got to share her stories of the place there. And we actually did have a little rain in the desert, which was a treat. And we went to Yellowstone, so there was a little geyser steam in our week, which can be in here symbolically. But it was just a wonderful time of family bonding and just getting to see and get a sense of what her year was like. And now she's moving on to other things.
I didn't bring any water. I'm actually heading to the beach this week with my brothers and their spouses and my mom. But I'm going to pour out some water just in gratitude for siblings. So I'm so grateful that my brothers and I are close and that we actually enjoy spending time together. And so I'm going to pour out some water for that.
This is water from home, very important.
Okay. Let us now share the stories from those of us on Zoom.
Sherry, you can unmute.
Okay, I did unmute. Hi, I don't know if everybody can hear me, but Doug and I are in a car. We're traveling to New Jersey to enjoy the ocean for a few days. Water is always very important to us. We're traveling with water from home, and I am proud to say that I'm a cracked pot who has been broken and fixed many times. So Doug and I are blessed, and we send our love.
Inga, do you want to unmute?
All right. Yes, I have traveled a lot in the past, but I'm traveling as little as possible now. And I am so grateful for my house and the safe water that I have in my house. And I'm so grateful for my whole life. It's nice to be with you all. Thank you.
Okay. I just started a new job 6 weeks ago or so, and saved apartment, just moved upstairs from where I was working before, but I would always go up there and get what I called the good water, because it was filtered and it tasted a lot better than the water on my floor, which tasted like a hose. So now I get to work right across from the good water. So I'm very grateful.
I now add water to this vessel from years past, binding us together through the generations, and of all those beloveds who have come before us. Blessed be the ancestors. And now we mark our place in the history of this church, adding our own water to this vessel, which will join with the generations to come. Blessed be the descendants. May we now bless this water, which has been made sacred by our stories. Join me in a responsive reading, which Pam will lead us in, lifting up the words of Ranwa Hamani.
And the response in your order of service will be, "This water is sacred."
This water is sacred. It is made sacred by the many hands that have poured it with intention and love, the many stories that each drop contains, the many lives surrounding it in this unique moment, connected by commitment and faith.
This water is sacred.
This water is sacred. May it continue to flow through this community with shining reflections of the unique gifts that flow through each of its members.
This water is sacred.
May it continue to nurture this community with sustaining hope that we join together through ripples of growth and change.
This water is sacred.
May it continue to bless this community with loving reminders of our collective responsibility to one another and the world.
This water is sacred.
May its ripples be a reminder that the changes and growth within this community bring movement and transformation to the world beyond our doors.
This water is sacred.
May its purity offer grace to our community and the willingness to forgive ourselves and one another when we make mistakes.
This water is sacred.
In moments when we are confused or uncertain, may it bring us clarity of purpose and commitment.
This water is sacred.
In moments when the reservoirs of our hearts and spirits are drained by sorrow or pain, may it nourish them with the acknowledgement that we are surrounded by a deep and abundant love.
This water is sacred.
Blessed be, and amen. Please rise in body or in spirit to join our voices in hymn 122 and the great hymnal, Sound Over All Waters. Following the postlude, you're invited to join me right outside of the narthex as you release the waters back to the earth. May we leave this sacred space with a tender love held deep in our hearts, embracing the wonder and awe and beauty of storytelling. As we step beyond these walls, may we be ready to invite vulnerability and compassion into those precious depths of our souls, ready to receive that which weighs on the mind of another, and ready to offer the deepest joys and woes of our hearts. We leave these consecrated walls, knowing we are held always in beloved community, where we may share, where we may listen, where we may love. Go in peace and amen.
Yeah.